Hi, my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Catron's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Catron's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Catron's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636. Locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Catron's Glass, the clear choice.
Welcome to the BeTempered podcast, where we explore the art of finding balance in a chaotic world.
Join us as we delve into insightful conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience.
We're your hosts, Dan Schmidt and
Ben Spar.
Let's embark on a journey to live our best lives.
This is BeTempered.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the BeTempered podcast, episode number
15.
15. Ben, good weekend?
Great weekend.
I had a great weekend with your son.
Yep.
Silas got to come to a Bengals game with my family, and I've got to pick up a second, third, fourth job to pay for the food that he ate. So appreciate you telling him to eat us out of house and home.
Yep, that's the goal. Always go for the ribs.
And he did, and it was fun. We had a great time, and then he went to the Bengals game and fell asleep after the first quarter.
Yep. Eat and then nap. That's what we do.
Oh, it was fun. Fun kids. Well, what's up, everybody? So we're here today. We've got a special guest, a good friend of mine that I grew up with. I don't even know when we first met each other. I'm going to guess, I don't know, Bible school, and when we were 4 or 5 years old. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast Mr. Justin Swartsell.
Well, thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here. So I've been diving into your podcast and really got a lot out of them so far. And I think you guys are probably helping more people than you realize. So it's a cool thing.
Well, we appreciate that. It. And, you know, when we started off, we were hoping maybe we could help one. And you know, I feel like episode 15, we've had a lot of people reach out. So we appreciate that. And you were one that reached out here, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. And said, hey, love what you're doing. I got a story to tell.
Yeah.
And so for those that don't know you, maybe give us some background.
Yeah, sure. Well, before I did that, I you know, you and I go way, way back, you know, childhood. But Ben and I just met, so I thought I wanted to give a couple gifts. So I didn't want to come to this podcast empty-handed, so I didn't. So I'll open up Dan's for him. But Dan and I went to high school, all through school together. High school, we played football together in high school. And we were trailblazers. So for the listeners that don't know what a trailblazer is, it's kind of like your Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett guy that's, you know, coonskin cap, musket over the shoulder. So we were the blazers. So for Dan's office, wherever he wants to put it, I brought him in a coonskin cap there.
That is
so,
awesome.
Oh, that's sweet.
So yeah. And Ben, you were Dixie, right?
Oh, yeah.
School
Greyhound.
And Greyhound, right? We didn't really.
Awesome.
It looks good on you.
He looks really good.
Yeah, we didn't play you guys in football, but you know we
would have crushed them.
I'm sure. But I got you. I'll let you open it. But you're an Eaton guy now, but probably at heart you're still a Greyhound. And I just wanted to get you something. So whenever you go over there, I want you to be able to. You know, take care of your fellow Greyhounds to be able to clean up after them whenever you need to. So, you know, I got you the dog poop bags.
Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy.
Thank you. And they're unscented too.
Yeah, I seen some lavender ones, and I was like, no, we're gonna
definitely unscented.
Got to clean up after those Greyhounds.
That is. And this is earth rated as well.
Oh,
yeah, environmentally safe.
I'm gonna leave that right here.
Is this real coonskin?
I'm sure.
Right.
100%. He did it himself.
Yeah. Sweet. That's
should have took
awesome.
that tag off there if that was true. Yeah. If you guys, Ben, you get to know me. I like to have fun, so I think we need to have fun in every day, a little something in what we do. So that was my fun with you.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Love it. Thank you.
And I'm sure that favor will be returned someday.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Well, good. So thank you for the gifts. This is pretty
absolutely.
sweet. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about growing up.
Yeah. So I grew up Preble County, Ohio. So a little town called New Paris. Was pretty much the normal kid, I guess, normal family. Mom, dad, have a sister, one younger sister, and grew up in church, went to just a community church, and family, grandmas, grandpas, childhood friends. Like we went to Bible school together and things like that. Back in the day, it was the Campbellstown Church and Concord was kind of in cahoots together, and they would share Bible school and stuff. So
two little tiny country churches still around.
Still around with the congregation of a few, but they're still there. So which is cool stuff. So I had that, and we went through my years, birth to about 10 years old. And I always tell people when we sit around, like with my family, my sister and others, and they'll start talking about a story, and if it's from that 10-year-old to before, I don't remember a lot. There's a lot there that's kind of foggy for me. But from 10 years old and after is really clear. But at 10, not to leave anything out of my childhood, but that's pretty much the basics of it. But at 10, my parents got divorced, and for me that was a tough time. It was kind of around that 1989, 1990 era, and there wasn't a lot of parents that were divorced or getting divorced. So my childhood was kind of flipped upside down, and going through that was very difficult, and it was kind of just not the normal. As I hung out with you and your family, and we had a lot of other great friends in there in that realm of 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that pretty much stayed good friends throughout high school. But none of those parents were divorced. So I was kind of different a little bit. It was, well, where are you this weekend, or where are you going this week, or you need a ride, which place do I take you in? So that was tough. It was a lot of living out of a suitcase, and going back and forth. And I had great parents. My parents were hardworking. Dad, bricklayer, and mom, hairdresser, and they still both are still working in some extent today. So I learned a lot of that hard work from them. But it was a time that just their marriage didn't work, and they decided to split. So that was something that I was going through.
Do you remember the feeling when you found out? I mean, was it, you were young, right? So I'm sure there's not a lot of things that you remember, but do you remember when that conversation came up?
Yeah, I do. I remember, I do remember being approached by my parents, and it's kind of like it isn't real, maybe at the beginning, and there's still hope that things will work out. But it was pretty much told to my sister and I that it was happening, and I had some anger there, definitely sadness, anger. It was, I was 10, so I was really concerned, like, well, am I going to have to go live somewhere and change schools, or I'm going to have to do this or that, pull away from my friends. And, talked about the Campbellstown Church, that was a thing. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go there anymore. But I think my parents did the best that they could, and that we were able to stay in the school. So got to stay with my friends in the school. We did switch churches. But yeah, it was some anger, probably some hidden anger in there that I didn't express all the time. Just kind of, I feel like I went into myself and just kind of dealt with things on my own. I learned how to fix things on my own and deal with what came at me. So that was the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important, because, I see it now. I remember, a little bit of that as a kid, and we talked about it earlier in the office. You don't recognize that. I see it with some of my kids' friends whose parents have went through a divorce, and being an adult now and kind of seeing the bigger picture of things, you really feel for those kids, because you can see it, right? I mean, you can see those kids when their parents go through a divorce, and it's, like for your parents' instance, it was a mutual thing. It wasn't it didn't get ugly, or I don't recall it being ugly, but in a lot of cases it does get ugly. And, the people that are hurt the most are those kids. And so, I don't mean to spend time on that, but, I just think it's important, because there's so many kids and adults who are going through that now. And it's a pivotal time in a child's life, right? And nobody knows how they're going to react to it, and how they're going to get through it, and how it's going to affect them later on in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking this morning, and 2024 statistics. The famous statistic is that half of the marriages end in divorce. Well, it's actually about 43% is where it's at right now. So
big number.
That's a huge number.
4.5 out of 10 marriages are going to end in divorce. And I'll be honest, when I look at where we're at in today's society with instant gratification, social media, everybody lives this perfect life and is trying to have this picture perfect life that they live or that they show people. And then things turn south or things get difficult. I think that number is going to continue to climb because, there's accountability, just thinking everybody's got it better than me. And then things don't work out or we have a difference of opinion. Well, guess what? We're going to quit.
Yeah.
And so, it was just an interesting statistic and, so not to stick on that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's good stuff. I think, I think almost everybody you talk to would agree to some point there's good in the world and there's evil in the world. However your faith is or what you believe, there's good things, bad things, good and evil. And what I believe is evil always tries to attack the family first. If they can wedge into the family, they can really do a lot more damage. So that family unit is so important. And I have a lot of that today, which I'll get to, which is some great things in my life that's going on right now that I never had in some time previous. But yeah, that evil that sneaks in there, and if they can break up mom and dad, and then the kids suffer from that. Even like with me, again, I had some great parents before the divorce and after the divorce. Sure. And still today, I mean, I've got great parents, and they're great grandparents to my kids. And with part of that happened at that time, and the next phase of that story was I ended up with some step parents. So went into their divorce, so they start dating. My mom and my dad both remarry, and my stepmom was a big part of my life. My stepdad was too, but my stepmom was an amazing person in my life, that she deserves a lot of credit for the crap that I put her through, because she wasn't supposed to be there. I was that 10, 11-year-old kid, and you're not supposed to be with my dad. My mom is, so it was and we sit around and laugh about it today. Right. But man, I was mean. Yeah. I was that mean kid, and I was hurting, and she knew that. So she really played a cool role in that. And my dad too. They both kind of gave up their new life for me and my sister. And I look back and see some of the sacrifice that they made, and it's like, they didn't have to do that part, but they did. And I learned from some of that on some of the things that I've with my kids today that I'll get to that part of the story. But yeah. And that 11 years old, 10, 11 years old to high school, I really latched on to a lot of friends. Going through that process, became a brotherhood with guys like you, Dan, and a few of those other great key people in there. David, Brad, Sean. There were some guys in there that really were key to my success in some ways, and just to have that. And sports played a role too. So as we built that brotherhood, we were playing sports together. Football was a big one. We started that 7th grade and played through high school. Really the love for football that you had versus what I had was probably different. You went on and played in college, and you really had that love for the game, and it was fun for me. And I'm so glad that I did it. But I was playing a lot of times for the guys that were around me versus the game itself. Probably just because what life had thrown at me, that was a great thing. Kept me out of trouble. Yeah. We always talk about how sports keep kids out of trouble, and man, it is so true. I've got a daughter now that I'll talk about here in a little bit, but she's getting ready to be a freshman, and she's in sports, but she can't sit still. So one of those kids can't sit still. So sports are great for her and great for a lot of kids, and it was for me too. Really gave me some goals early in life that to strive for that I might have not had on other hands. So
yeah. So good. So we get through get through high school. You're right. Great group of friends, great people. Graduate high school. What's next?
Yeah, so that was a tricky spot for me because high school was getting ready to end, and I didn't really have a direction. I wasn't sure. I see some of my buddies, you were going to play football, go to school. Some of the other guys were going to college. I wasn't always the best student. I mean, I was, on my good day, I was a C- kind of guy. D stood for diploma a lot of times, that's what we always joked about. But yeah, I mean, I was just trying to get through and make it to graduation. I did, but it was a fear for me because I remember like kind of my junior year going to watch the upperclassmen graduate, and I would watch them walk across the stage, and they would always read off like such and such is going to such and such college, or such and such is going into this and this college and that and that. So I was like, wow, I'm going to have to walk across that stage, and they're going to read my name and something behind it on what my plan is. And I had no plan. So for me, it's like, I got to put something together. Didn't have a lot of direction on, hey, you should go this way or that way. It was really left up to me. We didn't do college visits or anything like that, like some of my other friends were doing. So I was like, well, I talked to my dad a little bit, and where he was working, he had switched gears a little bit at that time in life, and he was working at a Dodge dealership in Dayton, and they had a program where if you went to Sinclair Community College to be a mechanic, you could also work there at the same time. My parents didn't have a lot of extra money to give, so I could work and go to school, and I didn't have to walk across that stage with a blank behind my name, right? So that was like in my thought, which is the totally wrong way you make that decision, for heading out the door into the world.
Yeah, but at that age, I mean, that's an age, you're right. I mean, I wonder how many kids have that same feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, this person's going here and this person's going here. Where am I going?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I recognize that now as an adult,
Yeah, for sure. So I did. That's what I did. I went to Sinclair. It lasted about 6 months. And I was like, this is not for me. I was out of the realm, like everybody, all my buddies were off to college. So I didn't have to be embarrassed, if you would, to quit. I just did. Still worked at the dealership for a little bit. And then moved back, or switched jobs and back home in my hometown, and worked at a tire shop because I had that experience. So they hired me right away. So I was working there, still living at home. I was dating a girl at the time, and I was like, man, I got to do something with my life. I don't want to, nothing wrong with the mechanics, and wow, some of them are doing really well, today's world. But it's like, so it wasn't for me. So I was like, I got to do something that I like to do. And I was big now into the outdoors and into hunting especially. So I really wanted to do something in that field. Hawking College was a college that I went to, and had to save up a little bit. I had a truck with a truck payment, so I got that paid off so I could go to college. And again, I didn't have a lot of direction on exactly how to get there, so I made my own plan, whether that was using some credit cards or whatever that was, student loans and things, and took off and went. Probably one of the better decisions that I made, because I made some really good friends while I was there. And the girl I was dating before, I still dated her through college, and graduated with my associate's degree in recreation and wildlife management. So I'm at about 24 years old at this point, and I got a job about 2 months before I graduated, and it was up by Lake Erie, and I got hired on as assistant manager for a private hunting shooting preserve. So they set on about 500 acres, so I got to do all their wildlife stuff up there, which was at the time was a great move, and I don't regret doing that move. But I stayed there for a long time and worked and got to do the wildlife stuff that I went to school for, and I thought that was my path. I thought that was my career. It's what I spent all that time in school for. It's what I studied hard for. By the way, I moved up from a C- student in high school. I made the dean's list a couple times, because I actually liked what I was doing at school. So that was an accomplishment for me, I thought. And I got this job, and at the same time, the girl I was dating, we got married. She moved up and started that life together, and kind of walked that path throughout my 20s and early 30s. but it was like going through the motions in life is what we were doing. And I think so many people do that today is they don't really set goals for themselves. And that was me. I didn't have future goals. I didn't have goals for tomorrow. I just knew that I was working. I was married, and that's what we were doing. So fast forward a little bit, I through that journey towards the end of working there, stayed in contact with a lot of my college friends. Still really close with one today, Brody Young. He's kind of my go-to. We talk every week or every couple weeks. He lives north of Columbus, but he's always been there. And my roommate, though, in college, he had passed away in the
While you were in school?
No, this was when we were out of school.
Okay.
Yeah, I was probably 30 years old, maybe a little older, 31, 32. And he had fought, even when we were in college, he had fought a muscle disease that ended up, he passed away from. So Brody, I, and a couple other guys really went through that fight a little bit with him, there as best we could. To see one of your brothers like that die, it was like, wow, you're not invincible,
right?
And you find out that, wow, you probably should think about what tomorrow is. So that started happening in my life. And a few years later, I became really good at my job. But there wasn't anywhere to go with that. There was a manager there, which was my boss. And I started not getting treated real well. So it played a toll on me. I started having some health problems, didn't want to go to work.
From the stress
of that every day. Marriage was on the rocks, and so that wasn't great. And didn't have any kids. Never had any kids with my first marriage, and got to a point where I just couldn't do it at my job anymore. So I was there for 11 years, and said I just I ended up going to have some tests done. That's where I found out it was all stress. Had a colonoscopy, things like that. Had a lot of stomach issues, and doc says you're 100% healthy. There's nothing wrong, and it's all stress. So that told me right there. It's like, man, stress plays
a big eye opener,
huge part on.
You're in your 30s.
Yeah.
There's stuff going on. You lose your friend. The marriage isn't going. It's not the honeymoon anymore. Yeah. Work's tough. And your body reacts to it. So how'd you get through it? What'd you do?
Well, at that point, I decided, I can't work here anymore. I lost my friend, can't work anymore. So I just, I quit, and I put in actually a month's notice, and I told him, I said, here's the reason why I'm quitting. And so I left, but then, our plan was, if I'm not going to work here at this place and we visit home all the time, home was about 4 hours away. So I was like, why don't we just move back home? So didn't know what I was going to do. So put the house up for sale, quit the job, moved back home. My dad was back into construction, and my ex-wife, she was a nurse, so she got a job pretty quick, and my dad was construction and had his own company. He's like, man, I'm busy, come work with me. And I did. So that gave me a little bit of a landing place. Rented a little house in town for a minute, and still, even with the move and all that, just going through the motions of life, here, get to tomorrow and then get to the next day. No goals, no futuristic thoughts of anything. And going down that road, that ended up leading to getting divorced myself. So I went through my parents getting divorced when I was young, and as much as we tried to fix it, it wasn't fixable. So just ended up going through that divorce, and that was a gut-wrenching time for me when that happened. And my job had changed a little bit at that same point, where I was still working with my dad, but I got a part-time job as a maintenance guy. So I was doing both. But man, I was kind of, I couldn't fix it, so I was I was fighting it.
You were lost.
I was lost. I was definitely was lost. And the divorce was supposed to be a quick, transition. We didn't have any kids. We didn't have any assets. We didn't have a house. 401ks and things were minimal, so there wasn't much to split up. But with all that said, it wasn't a quick transaction. The divorce process took about a year. So went through that. And again, I was that guy that always, if there's a problem, I just fix it, and get it, move on, fix it. And I just, one of those things I couldn't fix. So she had left. So we're going through that process. And as that year goes on, I started to date, wasn't officially divorced yet. But I started to date a little bit, and that all went bad. As you can imagine, as you're dating and you're still married, and that was like so I couldn't make that work either.
Right.
So got to the point where getting close to actually the court date of you're actually going to get divorced. You're going to go in and sign the papers, and boom, it's over. And once that started happening, I really wasn't dating anymore right in that moment. But I was at a rock bottom. I was at a place where my marriage had failed. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any for the future. I didn't have any like big goals like, okay, 1 year I can get here and 5 years I can get here. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any kids. And so rock bottom for me is I really started getting into a dark place. And this part I've never shared with anyone before except for my wife now, and you guys, but I started having some suicidal thoughts. And, that's something that just was there. It was daily. So I would fight that demon every day, and got to the point where it's the week of the divorce. Divorce was scheduled. You got to be at court this day, and so that last week was a place where it's like, man, it was heavy, and I finally got through that week, and went to court, got divorced, signed the papers, came home, and I'll never forget that evening. And I'm sitting there, and I came home in the middle of all this. I forgot I left out that I'm renting a farmhouse from your family. Mm-hmm. So you were there for me. We'd have barn talks, and I'd go out, and you were there to listen. Had a few other people in my corner listening, but they never knew that real deep dark place that I was in. But to have those people, my sister was one. A couple other friends were great. Brody, who I mentioned, he was always there. And my parents were there too. But some things you talk with your parents, and some things are harder to talk about, and when you got a good friend, you can really lean on. So I had all that, but still, nobody knew, nobody knew the dark place I was in. So I'll never forget that night. We got divorced, came home, and I didn't know what to do. I was there. It was over. Finally the door was closed, and it's like, okay, what do I do? So I had a lot of, we'll just say, stuff from that year of fighting that divorce, because we got attorneys, and you got paperwork, and you got all this crap, right? That you might need this, you might need that, you're saving this, and it's just a whole load of stress stuff that I had. And so I decided that I'm getting rid of all that. So I went out, started a fire out in the campfire, bonfire, and I just started burning stuff. And as stuff started to burn, I was starting to get a little relief, just because I had a feeling like, okay, let's move on to the next chapter. And then I found myself in prayer. I prayed out there that night, and kind of asked God, what do you want me to do? Hey, I got nothing else but you. Just let me know. And so got through that night. The next day I woke up, and immediately I hit my knees on the side of my bed, and I jumped into prayer. And at that moment, I feel like in my life I've had God talk to me twice. And it wasn't a big, a subwoofer from the air or anything like that you actually, just that feeling that overcomes you. And I felt like I heard God say, just be still. just be still. That's what I heard. So I said, okay. So my journey then, went to work and, just went to work, did my job, came home, prayed throughout the day, but every morning I would physically get on my knees and pray. And I found myself, not just praying for me and for help and for guidance, but I would find myself praying for my ex-wife too. It's like, hey, whatever she's going through, and I was looking for forgiveness is what I was trying to forgive, and trying to find that path. And I feel like it took a while. It just didn't happen a couple days. I was probably a month or two in, and I started feeling a little bit of a peace come over me. Still was really still. I was going to work through the week, and I'd go to church on Sundays, and that was about it.
Can I stop you for a
go
second?
ahead.
So when you're in that dark place, before you burn all that baggage, and you're in the depths and just questioning everything, do you feel like you weren't relying on faith prior to that?
Yeah, I do.
So what would be your advice to someone? I mean, there's somebody out there, whether they're listening to this podcast or not, who's in that spot, right? So what would you tell them? Obviously for you, that trigger was starting that fire and burning those documents. And you were raised in a church growing up, and like you said, you had good solid backing with friends and family. But for those that don't and they feel lost, like what would be something you would say, do this?
Yeah. I would say that, be patient. It doesn't happen overnight, and you're not alone. So that point, you always, you look at statistics, and with suicide stuff, it's always where, not always, but you read stuff and it's like, oh, that person committed suicide and no one ever knew.
Yeah.
It was a hidden thing. And then you have people that talk about it all the time and then they never do it. So they're both important to be concerned about, and to watch. But that was me. I was quiet about it, and I felt really alone. Even though I had some friends and family, but I would say if somebody's listening and they're in that spot, where you feel like there's no hope and there's no tomorrow, you're not alone. I mean, you can send some prayers up. And I always had that relationship with God where, my relationship was like we're talking now. I mean, I drive down the road and I can talk to God still to this day, and say, "What the heck?" Well, that's dumb, God. Why would you do that? Or and then He'll flip me around, put me in my place, and I'll, oh, that's why I got it. We're so entitled, or not entitled, but wanting that instant gratification sometimes, and that's where I was with that dark place. It was like, do I want to die? Or do I want the pain to go away? And I just wanted the pain. I didn't really want to die. Right. I just wanted the pain to go away. So that was like my avenue. Is like that's where that's how I can make the pain go away. But I didn't want that part of it. I just wanted the pain to go away. So yeah. So I went through that the next few months of just being still. I got off social media. Like I said, I went to work, went to church, and came home. And I rode that out for about 3 months. I really didn't talk to too many people. I wasn't looking to date. I wasn't looking for anything like that. I wasn't in the bars hanging out. I just took that 3 months time period and prayed. I prayed every day. And at the end of that 3 months is kind of where it led my life to where it is today. And I had to go into the eye doctor to pick up a pair of glasses that I had ordered. And I go in, and again, I haven't looked at chicks and hadn't been chick surfing or anything like that, right? I haven't been looking. And I go into this eye doctor, and here's this girl there, and I'm like, it just hit me. It's like, whoa, she's cute. And my type, and I'm like, wow. And so I didn't even talk to her. Just had that thought, and then, after I leave, I knew another person at the eye doctor and kind of reached out, hey, who's such and such? And kind of started pursuing that, and found out that she went to the same church that I did. She just went to a later service. So me doing my research. So I'm going to early service, but I kind of hang around a little bit to see if she walks through the. So right, yeah, how we do. And so here she comes through. Yeah, here she comes through with her kids. I had found out she had kids, 2 girls, so seen her and kind of just waved a little bit, and then reached out to her and said, "Hey, I'd like to take you to lunch." And she accepted, and we went to lunch and had a good lunch. And then we just said, "Hey, sometime I'd like to take you to dinner." And she kind of, I got 2 kids, right? Kind of that thing. And as the protective mama bear a little bit, and I was like, "Well, let's take them too. Let's bring the kids." And so we agreed that, well, let's let you meet the kids. And I said, well, let's just go to a park or something. So we went to a park and hung out a little bit, and got to know the kids, on the swings and stuff. Just we were there for an hour. And she said, well, you want to come back to the house for a little bit? And so I went back to her place and watched a movie or something with the kids and just hung out for about an hour. And then I left. And I'll never forget as I'm leaving. So 2 girls, Eva and Eli. Eva was 7 and Eli was 5. And I'm walking out the door. And Eva is my older. She is the biggest extrovert. Like, doesn't know a stranger, will talk to anybody. It's really impressive, actually, how she can do that. But she walks me to the door, and I'm leaving. So, okay, I'll see you guys later. Okay. And she says, all right, bye, I love you, and shuts the door. This is the first day I've ever met this little girl. Well, come to find out later that she turns like, oh my gosh, I told him, little 7-year-old girl, I told him I love him. And I'm sitting there like, did she really just say that? But yes, I reached back out. We went out again, and I said, hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to just take the kids too. We went to the movies and went to B-Dubs and watched Peter Rabbit. So that was our first official date, was with the kids, and been doing the same stuff ever since. But that was probably the second time God spoke to me, and I'm still in prayer pretty heavy. And he said, God, I heard God say, he says, you're going to be a dad. And here I'm sitting here at about, 38 years old. Like, yeah, okay. I hear you. Are you sure? And so, and he was sure. And, so we, quickly dated, and that story, progresses where, we fall in love, and, she, Erica, my wife, she's amazing. She really has, God had made her to be a mother, and it's just what her job is. And she is good at it, and, so I started learning that part from her, about kids, 'cause she just had it down. And, so I learned from her, and, we got married, and, proposed in Aruba. So if you ever get a chance to go to Aruba, go to Aruba. But that's where we actually got invited by her parents, and we went down there. And that's a funny story too. I'll try not to take too long, but I said, I told her dad, I was old fashioned. I said, hey, can I get your permission to marry your daughter? And, she's got 2 kids. He's like, well, heck yeah. And so we talked about it. It's like, well, I'd like to propose in Aruba. So we had to smuggle a ring through customs, because I wasn't putting it in a check bag and stuff. So we got it there and proposed at an old 1700s church, which is on the other side of the island, which is cool. So then after that, we had already previously talked. I wanted to adopt Eva. And her dad was never, her biological dad was never really in the picture ever. So that was an easy process. So we went right into that and adopted Eva. So she's a Swartsell now. And then Eli, the middle kid, she's great. She's totally opposite of her sister. But we did a name hyphenation with her. So she now has a Swartsell name too attached. So everybody in the house is a Swartsell. So we, with all that, we start to, decide that, we want to add to this party of 4. So
and you're how old?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, what was I? 40-ish?
How old is Jagger now?
So Jagger's 4.
So 41, 40,
we
41.
practiced for a year. So that was, it was, we were trying, I was like, this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden, boom, and so Jagger was planned and now Erica is 11 years younger than me. So she was still in the good graces to be able to have a baby. And so we really talked and we wanted, and he is, the biggest blessing and the biggest headache for all four of us, for sure. The little 4-year-old running around the house that rules the roost most of the time. But yeah, that was a little trying time. That was a COVID baby. So we had Jagger and COVID and all the tricks that went along with that time, as everybody knows. But yeah, so the blessings that come out of my life with some of those struggles that I had previously, I would have never would have thought that I would have the life and the success and the people around me today, when all that was going on. So that was a big turning point and a blessing.
So looking back upon, your childhood growing up and parents going through a divorce and everything you went through, losing a friend and you going through divorce and, being in those dark places that you were, that, I apologize. We had lots of conversations, but I had no idea that it was that dark for you. Yeah. And I saw you probably every day, right? There at the farm. So when you told Ben and I that last week, I was like, holy cow. I mean, you think you know somebody and you do, but you don't realize how much people hold back, right? How much people keep inside. And I think, if anybody takes anything from this and if you're in that spot, like you said, don't be afraid to find that friend, to reach out. Don't hold it, down inside, because that does nothing but just fester and, and then bad things can happen. So, and fast forward and here you are, you're married, you're adopting kids, you have your own son, and then job changes and things
throughout that process. The job has escalated. So I really found myself in a leadership role. Actually went to our company and said, hey, I think I can do this and this and this for you. And they've kind of put me in that spot, and it's just went up from there. And help support and lead a team of people. We have about close to 80 maintenance guys throughout 17 states, and I'm support for all of them. Do a lot of traveling around, and it's really, and I love it. I love the wildlife stuff that I did before, but I have more time now to do that on my own. And I probably would never change, even if I'm not with this company. I have the confidence now that I know I could go and do the exact same thing somewhere else, and I really enjoy being a leader and support for our team. Another cool thing that I wanted to share is with my family. We kind of had Jagger, and we're about a year into that, or a little more, and our finances were not good. And so and that was something that Erica knew, but didn't know the details of it. So I was like, well, I want to, no secrets here. So I told Erica, I was like, hey, I'd like to start a budget meeting with our family. And, in her mind, it's like, oh, okay, sure, whatever that is. So I said, I want the girls to be involved in it too. Just so they know. And so we started doing quarterly budget meetings. So every 3 months we would sit down. Now, the first one was the hardest. And we sat down and I shared with them. I said, here's where we're at. Here's what we make. Here's what our debt is. I was like, and we're drowning.
Yeah.
It's you can't order a pizza on Friday night because you got to put gas in the car instead. It's kind of where we were. And I started listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and started looking into his practices, and I shared that with Erica, and we kind of got into that together, and started going down that path. And so we just had finished up about 6 months ago that journey. And I share this number not to brag by any means, but if somebody's listening, this is another thing that I mean, you can definitely do it. But we paid off $73,000 in about 28 months.
That's awesome.
And it was a lot of no's. You know, hey, no, we can't go to dinner. Hey, no, we can't go on this trip or whatever. So we were 100% debt free except for the house. And it's just a peaceful feeling where we're able to, whether that's saving for some retirement now, putting some stuff into kids' college funds, taking that trip that we didn't get to take, and cash flow and all that. It's just a different place that I didn't know if we were going to get there, but we had that motivation and then the determination to push through.
I wouldn't say it's motivation. That's discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline's doing things that you don't want to do, but you're still doing it.
Yeah.
Motivation comes and goes. So, that's an awesome thing. When you told us that last week, I was thinking, you don't realize what you're teaching those kids. Not only did you open up your pocketbook and say, here's what we're making and here's what's going out, which not many families do that. Usually that's a big secret for whatever reason. But you show them that and you say, okay, here's the plan of attack and here's what we're going to do. It's not going to be easy, right? But we're going to do it.
Yeah, and it's a group effort.
It's a group effort, and you got through it. So what you taught those kids, I mean, they should be able to carry that on through their life, whether it's with finances or whether it's with sports or their job or whatever it is. That's discipline. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. We tried to make it as fun as it was not, going through that. We tried to make it fun for the kids. So when we figured out, okay, we've got, all of our debts, each debt, we let them make a ring out of construction paper, and we wrote on there whether it was a credit card or a car or a loan or whatever that was. And we kind of stapled these rings together. And every budget meeting, we would hang rings from the ceiling fan above the kitchen table. And I'm telling you, those rings would reach from there all the way down to the bottom of the table. And every 3 months, if we got through, if we knocked off a debt, it was a ring. And the kids got to cut the ring off. So every quarter we could see that thing shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, so they got to see that. And you're right. I hope that goes forward with their lives. If anything else, they can, not be afraid to ask, come back and
that's not a sexy thing, right? That's not something that you're going to see on social media. I mean, that's a tough thing, to say, all right, I'm going to be disciplined enough to pay off my debt. We're not going to go out to dinner. We're not going to go to the movies. We got a car. We're going to pay for that. And when that's done, we're going to move on to this. I mean, that's a huge thing, especially with young kids. I mean, that's impressive. That's very impressive. Well,
thank you. It was, it's peaceful now, but at the moment it was a journey for sure.
Nothing worth doing is ever easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Well, that's great, man. I mean, as we kind of wrap this thing up and we've heard your story and you've been through it. What I think though is I think there's probably a lot more people out there that have been in your position and been through maybe not all the things that you've been through or done the things that you've done, but have been in a similar spot. And it goes back to why we're doing this, right? And we talk about it every single episode is everybody's got a story. There's always a fire, right? At your darkest, deepest moments, you were in the fire.
Yeah.
But then what's crazy is what'd you do? You turn around and you took all that baggage and you burn it.
Yeah.
Right? You burn it and you turn it around and look at your life now.
Yeah.
You're essentially debt-free. You're raising 3 beautiful kids. You got an amazing, loving wife. You're involved in your kids' lives and trying to help other people, and you're here telling your story. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially since you've never really told it. I mean, you're going to have, we talked about it back at the office too, right?
Yeah.
Your mom and your dad are going to hear this.
Right.
What are they going to think? I hope that they're proud is what I hope. I hope that they don't look back and think, holy cow, we didn't realize that he was affected in this way, because they've got their story too, right?
Sure.
But if anything, with you and with your sister and, what your family has done, I think they should be very proud.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope so. I think they probably are a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But again, great parents and I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I really am, to be where I am today. I'm living a strong life. Got a great family. Kids are growing up like crazy. My career is going good. We're involved in church, and we have fun. We have a lot of fun as a family. So
that's awesome.
I'm sitting here thinking, it's at the beginning you were talking about when your mom and dad first got divorced, but you were in church, you still had that foundation, before that happened. Then you said, the devil will attack, evil will attack family, and that's the first place it attacks. And I just find it interesting kind of how, you end up going through the same exact battle that your parents were going through, and you're going through it alone, and you're in that very, very dark spot. And what do you lean back on? Like you pray, and you prayed your way out of it. And then now look at you, you're flying high. I mean, as a parent, I hope I give my kids the foundation your parents gave you to, you don't know what the heck to do. You're thinking about very, very dark things. And, I've had family members that luckily, didn't finish it, but tried to commit suicide. And we're in the hospital for a while, and, seeing them the same exact way, like they find that foundation. And I don't know, I think your parents are going to be very proud of you. I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just meeting you today, I'm proud, I'm proud that somebody gets to listen to this story and know that there's a way out. You just got to fight your way through it, pray, fight your way through it, have faith. And I don't know, it's just an amazing story. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing it too,
absolutely.
man.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to affect a lot of people.
I agree 100%. So as we finish up, are there any closing thoughts or words of wisdom you can leave anybody?
Yeah, I actually got something I'd like to read that helped me at a time. But there was a couple things that I wrote down I wanted to leave with. On the financial side, going through that getting out of debt journey, Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." So you're in that that debt crisis where you feel like paycheck to paycheck. Once you start to climb out of that freedom that comes with that. So that was a verse. And then another one that kind of backed that one up was Proverbs 13:22. "A good man leaves inheritance to his children's children." So I think that's money, but I also think that's an inheritance can be multiple things, whether it's something you're teaching them, and different things. It could mean different things for different people, but I think leaving your legacy, I guess, maybe. I listened to the podcast that you guys had with your father-in-law.
Yeah.
And all those people and all those kids and Saturday morning, whatever, said he did. I really enjoyed that. I think, just the little things like that, that you leave behind. And then there was one more thing I wanted to read, and this was something that got me through. Part of my dark time was, I had a lot, excuse me, I had a lot of anxiety, that I didn't even know I had sometimes. And, as I was praying and stuff and reading, this is something, and this isn't Bible verses, but this is in my Bible. There's different passages in here that talk about answers to life's questions. And I'm not a great reader, so I'll try to get through this. But it says, "How can I overcome anxiety?" And it says, "All of us have worried about the basics of life. When we reduce most of our anxiety to their lowest terms, we discover they involve fundamental things: where we live, what food we buy, what clothes we wear, what friends we have, what others think about us. In all these concerns, the issues for believers in Jesus Christ comes down to trust. Do you believe that you are in charge of your life, or do you acknowledge that God directs and provides? Your answer has everything to do with your anxiety level. Have you ever watched a mouse running inside a wheel? The faster he runs, the faster the wheel moves, but he doesn't make the slightest progress. He does not even have sense to get off of the wheel. That is what anxiety does to you. You run faster and faster, trying harder and harder to meet demands or prevent disaster, and still you do not have control over your circumstances. So when something does not go quite right, your frustration level continues to mount. There is a way off the wheel. However, God created you. He knows your deepest needs. He longs for you to end the anxiety cycle and let him lead."
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
So, yeah, cool stuff. That was a little passage stuff that I always lean back into when you start to to get a little anxious about something. And, my wife and I have a thing that we always say now is, when life is hard, it's really not that bad. So,
that's right.
Other people or what you maybe had in your past, or there's always somebody that's got a little bit worse, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So just remember that, I guess, to the listeners to, when it's crashing down, it could probably always be a little worse.
Yeah. And I always think of one that's this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Right? So no matter how, like you said, how dark or how desperate or whatever challenges you're facing, it's going to pass, right? It's going to pass. So, having that faith and that discipline, to get through it, that's what it takes.
And the good too, right? So if it's something that's good that's happening, this too will pass.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
the good things will tend to go away too, and it's a different time. So
that's right. Well, good. Ben, you got anything to close with?
I just can't thank you enough for coming on, man. And
yeah,
like I said, I think your story is amazing and a real testament to the type of man you are. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate you reaching out, because I wouldn't have thought of you, to be honest with you. And then when we had that conversation, I was like, okay. And then when you told me everything, I mean, I was just blown away. So no doubt there's going to be people that hear this who you're going to help.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
That's what this is all about. So everyone out there, we appreciate you taking the time again to listen to episode, what did we say, 15?
15.
We appreciate your ears. Just remember, the only way that this BeTempered podcast continues to grow is if you subscribe, you like, you share, share it with your family and your friends, so we can keep getting those messages out there like Justin's, and telling those stories, because somewhere there's someone out there who's in the fire, right? And they don't see a way out, but hopefully this story today will help those people get out. So thanks again, everybody. Go out and be tempered.
Hi, my name is Allie Schmidt. This is my dad, Dan. He owns Catron's Glass.
Thanks, Allie. Things like doors and windows go into making a house. But when it's your home, you expect more, like the great service and selection you'll get from Catron's Glass. Vinyl replacement windows from Catron's come with a lifetime warranty, including accidental glass breakage replacement. Also ask for custom shower doors and many other products and services. Call 962-1636, locally owned with local employees for nearly 30 years.
Catron's Glass, the clear choice.